Well, some of America's smartest men, including Robert Kiyosaki, investment guru and author of the personal finance book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, have some choice words for Executive Order 14067. It would behoove you to listen to them. Kiyosaki called President Joe Biden's signed executive order the most treasonous act in U.S. history, and the creation of a central bank digital currencies, or Cbdc, as communism in its purest form, encouraging Americans to stay awake. And he's also joined by Jim Rickards, another economist, investor, and former CIA official, who's calling it a step toward the end of cash, the greenback in circulation since the founding fathers. The new digital tokens can be turned off if the government doesn't like what you're doing. And Rickards has 4 decades of experience on Wall Street. Rickards criticized Cbdc and labeled it as Bitcoin's evil cousin. He also exposed the supposed singular event called C-Day, which according to him will take place on December 13th, 2022, and will disrupt the traditional financial systems in the United States. He said when what he calls C-Day happens, paper money would be worthless and the U.S. dollar could crash. He further added that consumer spending and access to basic needs would be restricted, and people holding too much money would be penalized. Going further into this, in terms of practicality, you want to keep your internal combustion engine car? Your digital dollars suddenly won't pay for the gas. You'd be forced to buy an electric vehicle. And Rickards calls it a tip of the fastest iceberg. With Biden bucks, the government would be able to force you to comply with this agenda, because if you don't, they can turn off your money. And this won't be like freezing a bank account. It'll be so much easier. America will become a surveillance state, much like China or North Korea says. Is this scare talk? No, it's just Executive Order 14067. Biden signed it on March the 9th, 2022. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and laws of the United States of America. Look it up. Now, this is coming from WorldNet Daily. I'll leave the link down below. Of course, I know you got a lot of comments. Leave them down below as well. For TNS Texas News Studio, Mark Myers, I'll talk to you soon at another report.
So now you've got this CBDC that requires ID. So what's the big problem, Magic? What's wrong with that? Think about it. Every single transaction in your life that you will ever do and ever have done will be logged and registered on an open ledger, because that's what the blockchain is. Now, Bitcoin avoids this because you don't need your name on your Bitcoin wallet. So it will be a number on the blockchain ledger. Yes, you can be traced by some clever detective work. That's fine. That's like cash. But what CBDCs are is your national identity tied to a digital currency that will log every single one of your transactions forever. Because once it's on the blockchain, you can't erase it. And that gives you absolutely no anonymity. And the second concern is control, because this currency can be programmed. And when it's programmed, it means that it can be set by government and it can determine what you purchase and what you sell and what you buy.
On CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash. And there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that. On CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash. And there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that.